638 fatalities as at the 14th of December 2017. And then we had an accident that took another 17 lives, and those were just the ones that were on the road. We don't know how many more people are going to lose their lives once they've gone into hospital or in days, weeks, or months later. And we haven't even started to count the number of people who live with disability as a result of the accidents on our roads. What are we going to do about it? There's been a hue and cry, but it needs to be more than just that. It has to be, doesn't it? Talking this today with one of the board members of the NTSA, the National Transport Safety Authority in Kenya, Moses Derrito. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Well, not so well, obviously, because we're looking at the numbers and they continue to rise. And the question has just got to be asked. From a national transport safety vantage point, what do we now do to reduce the fatalities on our major highways, particularly on the road between Nakuru and Eldoret, and that black spot or series of spots that is Sachagwan and Salga?
Well, that area is requires a lot of intervention, because there's so many things that are working against a driver when he's in that area. One, you're actually getting out of the Rift Valley and you're climbing up into the highlands. So there's a big issue of the gradient. A lot of times there's an issue of visibility, because it's a very foggy area. There's something to be said about the road design. It's a poorly designed road. I'm glad to hear that now the road is being redesigned so that as to be able to make it wider. They're actually going to light it up. They're going to make it a dual carriageway. So there's a lot of, and then there's the issue of our behavior as drivers. The way, even when you're approaching a hazardous zone, there's no caution towards your driving. And this is actually there are signs saying caution. There are speed limit signs. There is trucks. You see a big sign saying no freewheeling, which is what actually a lot of the trucks do. When they're at the top of the highland, put the truck on free and roll it so that they're saving on fuel. But what that does is, when you actually then have a hazard, if it's the bump or if somebody cuts you off, you can't actually stop, because this is as they say, at the runaway train. There's a lot of issues, but the biggest issue, when they say an accident happens, is when so many things are working against you, and then just that one thing. And the one thing is the driver. The drivers must be able to take a bit more caution, because you know you're going into a hazardous zone, so you actually take a bit more caution.
We've had a lot of conversation about drivers and driver behavior in Kenya and the peculiarities of Kenyan drivers. But any kind of behavior can be both learned and unlearned or changed. And usually the change comes when there's been some kind of intervention, consistent intervention. We're seeing a lot of fining. But we're not seeing so much driver awareness, driver education, driver intervention, passenger awareness, passenger rights. Why are we not seeing this end of communication more?
I think for a long time we have dealt with road safety as something that's not mainstream. It's been something that even when you look at before NTSA came, it was not a big issue. It was actually something that we dealt with when there was an accident. So, I mean, one of the reasons like I'm here is to be able to actually pass this message that we must partner with the media, we must partner with all players in that industry to be able to actually pass this information that people are dying on our roads, and we must start taking certain responsibilities. So as the lead agency, we are pushing as hard as possible to government to allow us the budgets, to allow us the funding to be able to take up those campaigns, so that you're doing enforcement and education together. But road safety and issues of road safety must become mainstream. It must become a conversation, not just when there are fatalities. It must become a conversation even when there are none. So that even on the day when we don't have those bad accidents, it is actually top of mind. And it's the same thing I keep saying that we did with the HIV and AIDS. It became a mainstream conversation. So that it's not always when there's an accident, then we point fingers and there's a lot of flurry of activity, and then we go back to default settings, and we keep quiet until the next one happens. So this must be continuous, and to mount a continuous campaign is expensive, but we must be able to make it something that everybody understands and everybody actually sees their part in it, as well as us who have the responsibility to lead it also do our part.
NTSA receive a lot of flack because of Alcoblow and because of what seems to be a replication of the services that the Kenya Police Service, or a lot of the actions that the Kenya Police Service is supposed to be undertaking in terms of stopping cars, checking for alcohol levels. Is this outside the mandate of the NTSA? Should it not be with the Kenya Police?
It's not outside the mandate of the NTSA because an NTSA officer has no authority to stop. We don't have that by law, but we partner with the police. So if you see an Alcoblow check, there's always police. So that is actually, so what we are doing is partnering with them. But if we take Alcoblow, there's no time it's been legal to drink and drive in Kenya. It's just that it's now been enforced. And I say that we have a middle class problem whereby it's the middle class who have been curtailed from enjoying what they've been doing all these years by being asked to not drink and drive. But the problem with that is people see it as an NTSA issue. It's not an NTSA issue. It's a personal issue. It is your safety that is being protected, not NTSA's safety. So when you get into the vehicle and you drink and drive, we all know that how many accidents happen because of that. This weekend, we found matatu drivers who are actually drinking, who actually drunk and actually got passengers. And what do? You take a bottle of soda, you put in, you spike it, and he looks like he's taking soda. So passengers sometimes know, but they don't voice it. So we must be able to actually empower the passengers, empower other road users to be able to say, no, this will not happen. But like any good change, it starts with yourself. If you then say, I will not do this, and then you then become an ambassador and tell all your friends, we will not do this, and we'll do Uber or whatever. So those things happen. But in long term, what we should be doing as NTSA is giving the police all the support they require, because we are custodians of driving license information, registration of the vehicles information. If we then can avail that to them, and they then take up their mandate of keeping people safe on the roads and use a bit more technology, so that if you are arrested today and you are arrested tomorrow, that there is some punishment that follows you. But right now, what is it? It's become a cat and mouse. The media take Alcoblow as an entertainment thing. So it's the only intervention that we get a call from media saying, can we come and film it? The rest, if it's speed checks, nobody cares. If it's if we're going to Machakos bus station and trying to talk to drivers, the bus drivers, long distance bus drivers, we can't even get media coverage for that. But when you say Alcoblow, because they know that somebody is going to get caught, they know somebody is going to try and run away, they know somebody is going to try and drive over the spikes, it's taken as almost as a form of entertainment, and that is sad. We must make drinking and driving, speeding, and just general misbehavior on the road uncool. Because right now, one of the biggest frustrations, you're sitting on Kiambu Road, the people overlapping are moving. You who's law-abiding are not moving. Now, there's no consequence for the guy who's overlapping. Now, as NTSA, you can't be everywhere. But the traffic police, we must start punishing those wrongdoers on the road at the same time as we're educating them why this cannot happen.
And I'm thinking perhaps we need to get really angry. We need to get really angry and begin to do something. Now, I'm not one for advocating people taking the law into their own hands, but sometimes people I think we need to start saying on the roads, no.
There's this clip I keep seeing, I think it's in India or Bangladesh or somewhere, where they've got a squad of police who actually administer caning to the equivalent of border riders.
I like what you've said. Should we actually, and we had seen that, should we institute in the law the punishment that involves the placard that says, don't be like me, I was overspeeding, with an arrow downwards, or, one of those other messages that will now instill driver discipline because you don't want low-level very public punishment. Because you see, fines are very quiet. I just pay it and then we're done. But if I've got to stand on the side of the road for 3 hours, 6 hours...
Actually, all you need is even 20 minutes. If you are in such a rush, you are speeding, and you're to park on the side of... If you're overlapping, just park the car where it is, take the keys, let the guy wait for 20 minutes.
Let the guy hold a placard for 20 minutes.
I'm telling you, that will change a lot of things, because I think the one thing we don't want is, you see, this is a faceless crime, because everybody's saying somebody else. But when you start putting faces, and you see, it's Renee standing there with her placard saying, "Don't be like me." Yeah, of course there are legal issues, and I'll tell you right now, we started doing the new Traffic Act. The Traffic Act must now conform to the year to 2017 roads and rules, because this is a 1947 or 43 document that has been changing, so that we can start bringing it and bringing smart interventions into the law. Because right now, like you talk about an instant fine, legally you can't do it, and because it's been blocked up in court. What do you do with repeat offenders? How do I cancel your license? Those things were not envisaged those many years ago, but now we have to bring up those things, and that takes us to why we are bringing the new smart driving license, because we want to be able to get your details, not just your personal details from your ID to your PIN to your blood group to your next of kin, but also we want to know which cars do you own, so that if I need to share, if you're a bad driver and you're a repeat offender, if I need to share that information again with the insurance companies, because that punishment must follow you. If you want to hire a driver in capital firm, we should be able to query a database and see, is he a safe driver? Almost like what CRB does with banking. You must actually start creating a database where you can actually tell who is a good driver, who is a bad driver. And that way you're using smart interventions. You can then start bringing things like cameras. We've got the cameras around Nairobi. But if your database is useless, or it's so old, people have not transferred their vehicles, they've not done this, you will be arrested for a car you sold in 1984. It's not yours anymore.
And it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
I want you to speak a little bit, actually, about this new smart license and what it means, and what some of the benefits are, so that we can understand them.
The idea behind the smart driving license is, okay, so I'll start again. The idea behind the smart driving license is to be able to create a license that is actually for the century or the year we are living in. It's got a point-based system where when you get your license, you have 20 points, and for every misdemeanor, then you're docked points. And when you get to a certain threshold, you can then be retested or actually banned from driving. But also it captures other data like vehicles you own. It also captures previous offenses, and most importantly, it will also eventually be used as a payment gateway. So if it's a minor offense, you can actually use it as like an ATM card. You can actually pay your fines from it. But the most of all, what we want to do is to be able to merge data. We want to merge vehicle data to driver data and driver behavior all in one card, and that's actually the idea behind the smart driving license. So we are currently piloting and issuing some cards to different people as we test the system with a hope to just roll it out in the first quarter of next year, and then every driver on their next renewal or any new drivers coming into the market will get the new driving license. So over a period of 3 to 4 years, we will have done away with the old booklet and then move to the smart driving license.
Moses, I know that this thing is personal for you because you're a motorcyclist and you've done you've covered some pretty much, hundreds of kilometers of tarmac.
Yeah, thousands.
And you've broken a wrist on the road.
And a leg.
And a leg on the road, on your bike. So I know that it's personal to you. So I want to thank you first for taking the time to come out, for doing this campaign and being so passionate about it, for caring for every single user that is on the road, not just this Christmas, but throughout the course of the year, and for making us think about how it could be different, it could be better, it could be without these numbers.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity, and please keep preaching. We just need people to arrive alive.
Arrive alive. I like that one. Well, the other thing that we're going to do, we're going to go and I'm going to get myself one of those smart driving licenses, will be taking you on that particular tour together with the lady who is behind this camera, so that you can see what it's like to get a smart DL and what that means for you. Between now and then, arrive alive. Hiya. Things that will make me have to like take on my own tradition. Arrive, okay? Stay safe. Cheers.